have three presenters in the panel, and they're industry leaders at firms such as Google, Amazon, and Meta. So let me first introduce Charlie. He is a pan-regional client partner at Meta, where he helps drive value and economic growth for retail brands across Latin America. So please put your hands together for Charlie. He's going to be the first presenter.
Thank you. Perfect. Let's try this. Okay. How are you guys? Good? Nice. Outside is raining like crazy, so we are better place here. If somebody is planning to leave, you need to stay one conference more because it's raining too much. I'm taking care of you guys. Okay. So thank you for staying here today. My name is Carlos, but everybody call me Charlie. Very complicated last name, Maltagliari, which means bad cat in Italian. Somebody speak Italian here? Nice. Okay, I am Argentinian. I love soccer. I have 10 years in Meta. In 2 weeks, it's my 10th anniversary. We call it Metaversary. It's the same, it's 10 years equally. I love to run. I love to do barbecues as all Argentinians. But all those photos are fakes, right? I create this using AI. It doesn't mean I don't do this. Of course, I do these kind of things, but I am very enthusiastic about the AI. I'm going to be talking a lot about the AI with all those gentlemen from great companies that are innovating. We are doing amazing things together in this aspect. Let me change here. Perfect. So I'm very enthusiastic about that, about the AI in my life, in my role, in Meta. This is very important for us. Just to give you an idea of the context, AI is a critical piece of how we connect consumers, brands, with experience, with different engagement situations in the platform. We could talk about Facebook, we talk about Instagram, we talk about WhatsApp, we talk about Threads, Messenger, and more platforms. Just to give you an idea of the scale, 3.4 billion consumers daily use some of those platforms. It's a huge scale. So at the end of the day, it's a huge opportunity and of course a huge challenge how we land this AI and how we land the value of AI for this size of amount of users that we have in the platform. Just to give you an idea, in the last couple of years, since 2020-21, we have invested across $100 billion in AI. Of course, in different use cases, and we have been talking in the previous panel about how we measure the ROI, how we measure the return of AI. We're going to be talking about that in a few slides. But this is very important for us, right? It's a big investment. We are just starting because at the end of the day, we are seeing that this has impact in multiple aspects in the company. As he mentioned, I work with enterprise brand, helping to grow the business in the CPG and retail vertical. So I'm going to be talking mostly about advertising and how we are using AI to make them more efficient, and also how we're using AI for all of you that are using some of our services, Facebook, Instagram, wherever, to get the better content at the better time for what you are doing. This is how we apply this tangible in the platform, and of course, how we try to convert this in value for the people, which means at the end of the day, stay more time using the platform. Just to give you an idea, in the last couple of years using AI, we got 6 or 7% more spend time in the platform, which is huge in 3.4 billion consumers that are active, and also trying to bring incremental impact in return of investment for the advertising business. But the vision that we have for AI is an open, of course, AI vision is an open source model. We call it Llama. We're going to be talking more about that. And the idea is to create and to deliver an open source, the best open source model that are in the market right now for everyone, trying to democratize the access. Of course, it's very expensive AI. You need a lot of technical requirement to execute this. But our vision and our goal is to provide AI, an open source model to creators, to developers, to brands, and to consumers. Up to date, we are having more or less over 1 billion consumers that are using our model. The model is called Llama. Any Argentinian in the room? Okay, I need to say Llama, no? Porque Llama only in English speaker. For Argentinian is Llama. I need to do that, sorry. Llama is our model. It's an open source model. Company use that. Shopify use that. Scribble use that. More than 1.2 billion downloads. And of course, we are working with multiple enterprise business on this. This is the large language model that we have. And of course, this large language model is the best in class open source. And we are, of course, feeding this model in multiple services, right? One of the services that we are, of course, using is what we call Meta AI. I don't know if you have the chance to see, for example, when we are using Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, a little small bubble there. Well, this is the assistant that you have in the tool, is of course in the product, is of course in the web, is of course in an app, is of course in the glasses. If some of you have the opportunity to try the Ray-Ban Meta or the Oakley Meta, they have integrated AI so you can talk with your glasses and see what you are seeing and of course get responses based on your context that you have. So our goal is to integrate Llama and Meta AI across all the services that we have and across all the use cases that we have. And this is right now more than 200 countries worldwide, multiple languages, of course a multimodal AI model. We're going to be talking more about that, which at the end of the day you can use in text, you can use in audio, you can use in video, gives different resources. And this is how we are cascading, right, the technology into the execution for bringing value to the consumers. And this, of course, is feeding not just Meta AI, not just, of course, some model, but also, as I mentioned, I work mostly in advertising, trying to, of course, connect brands with people to get the most out of what they are investing in advertising in the platform, generating conversions, sales, awareness, top of mind. And of course, all of this is cascading into multiple different models. At the end of the day, is what makes all the product 100% of fully personalized for you, right? We have here 200 people. All of us are going to have a different experience in Facebook, a different experience in Instagram. And the reason why behind that is because, of course, AI is working on the recommendation engine to ensure that you are getting the content that is more relevant for you, for your needs, and of course for the type of moment that you are living. So this is basically how, from the theoretical part, is cascading into the execution, especially into, in this case, advertising. And I love the question that we did in the previous panel about adoption of this model. And one big part of the adoption is the human, right? How we as humans are adopting this technology, how we as humans feel comfortable on playing, on using, on exploring, on maximizing what we are doing with this kind of technology. And one part that for us is very easy to explain is in terms of performance. Just to give an idea, if we compare, for example, advertisers that are not using AI to optimize this campaign and advertisers that are using AI to optimize this campaign, this group is having more or less 20% better performance, 20% better return of ad spend, which is the way that we measure, of course, the value in advertising. So at the end of the day, the results are showing that that works. Of course, it doesn't mean that the advertisers are going to have 100% of all their action 100% automatized. No, some of them is in the 40%, some of them in the 50%, some of them in the 80%, depend, of course, of the strategy, depend, of course, on how you wanna to execute. But of course, the goal that we have is this, how to cascade, also in the recommendation engine, right? How we could bring more relevant content to all of consumers worldwide. And just to give an idea, this is reflected on something that is very important for us, which is at the end of the day, spend time and usage. This is just, I would say, the beginning. We have thinking in the future on where we are going, and we're going to be talking more and more about that in the panel. Today, we are more on the optimization side, optimizing the campaign, automatizing, for example, different decisions that the marketer has in the platform. If some of you have the chance to run a campaign in our platform, right now there is an opportunity for automatize how the budget are distributed, how the budget are spent daily, how the audience are defined, which are the opportunity, which are the conversion, all those decisions that take us time and effort, of course, to take and be automatized. But it's not just giving this to the machine, but also is us as individual bringing our intelligence and bringing our strategy to be very clear on what we want to ask and what we want to bring and what we want to request to the systems, right? At the end of the day, the system execute, but we are the one who define this strategy. And thinking in the future, thinking on what is coming, I would like to highlight three things. One is, of course, the very bold vision from our founder, Mark, right? Which is the goal of creating this general intelligence, or this, what we founded recently, the super intelligent lab, is the goal to generate general AI, which at the end of the day could be as smart or big smart as the person. And this is our goal, of course, in the short term, but it's a huge vision for the industry. The second one, something that I think that is great to have this discussion here in a university, is about talent, right? We need to have more talent on this. That's why another of the priority and another of this bold vision is having a best-in-class team of talented people, engineers, data scientists, researchers, to execute this vision. This is a huge opportunity. I love always, there's a quote from Douglas Adams, who is a nerd from technology, that I love to what he says. He say, everything that is invented when you're born is natural, right? I see that in my kids. I have 3 kids. For them, the world always has internet, right? It's something common. It's there for always, and totally different from what was when I born. But what he said is every technology that is invented between your 15 years old and your 35 years old, you have the opportunity to build your life or your career around this technology. I think that this is where we are today, right? AI is just scratching, it's just starting, but we are here in a room, a lot of students, a lot of teachers, a lot of opportunity to bring this to the university and see how we build the talent that is going to be required to put that in practice. And the third pillar, very important, is infrastructure, right? At the end of the day, all of this looks really nice, but we need to have the power to execute that. And this is very expensive, this is very challenging. Just to give an idea, we are open next year a data center who has 1 gigawatt processing power. 1 gigawatt is the equivalent to 800,000 houses, or equivalent at the energy that produced for a nuclear plant. We are talking about an unprecedented scale. This is what's going to happen next year, and in the 3-5 years, we're going to build something that's called Hyperion, which is 5 times bigger, it's 5 gigawatts, and it's a data center of the size of the whole Manhattan Island. This is where we're going. This is huge. Of course, it's a huge opportunity to debate. It's a huge opportunity for learn from different companies, different visions, but this is here, and it's a real opportunity for us, for our career, for our business, and for us as individuals. Say that, I was in time. Argentinians like to talk too much, right? That's why I was running.
Thank you so much, Charlie. Next, we have John, who is a senior partner sales manager at Amazon Web Services, where he drives adoption of cloud-based solutions across strategic markets. Please, John.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everyone. So it's going to load up. They're doing that real quick. I've had the fortune of spending a lot of time in this room. When I'm not at Amazon, I'm a professor here at FIU. And I get to teach in the MBA program, thanks to Dr. Cousins for the analytics. And thank you. I usually get assigned the room next door, but then we get to sneak in this room. There's nobody here. And you can see why teaching in a movie theater is amazing, right? Especially if you like technical diagrams and drawings. So today I'm going to actually get a lot more technical than I've seen anyone else get. And I hope you walk away actually understanding more about how it works and how you can use it better. And I think it'll lead really well into the next presentation and into our panel discussion. Go ahead and advance. A couple things about me is I love boating. I love my family. For me, all of this started with my parents giving me a computer when I was very young. In the center there, I don't know if any of you recognize it. That's an Osborne. It was my first portable computer, 2 5.25-inch floppies on the right side. This is circa 1984, right? So from there, just passion and love of learning, love of technology, got me to the White House, got me to Amazon. Spent a lot of time in academia and really studying and diving into how this works better. Go to the next slide. Oh, I got the next slide, right? You can advance it. That was in the room next door with our robot dogs last semester, teaching and integrating what we're going to talk about today, AI with robotics. Those two are one thing. If you do them properly, you can get a lot of the activity you saw today with the robots walking around and doing all sorts of practical things. I'll keep this closer. So one of the things that we're facing with and dealing with across the board is the change of the generations and what is beautiful to each generation. And I heard this a little earlier when we were talking. If you notice the scale on the top of the years, one of the main functions of what's happening is the generation durations are shrinking. They're going much, much faster. So what's new to each new group is totally different. So I'm going to lay a different timeline over this really quickly. Does anyone know in 1950 what kind of computers we started with? Mainframes. Anyone know what came in 1965 that replaced mainframes? Not many people actually know this, but it's mini computers. They're like the size of copiers. What came in 1980? The PC. What came in 1995? The internet. What came in 2010? The cloud. Okay? These are all 15-year cycles, one after the other, 15-year cycles. And Gary Beach from CIO Magazine came down in 2010 and told us the cloud cycle is starting. This is the first year we're entering the AI cycle. So we've got a 15-year run now where we're going to be exploiting this technology. And the folks that are going to be doing it are on the right side of that scale, not the mid to late career professionals on the left side, right? So evolving this is really focusing on them. Next slide. So how many of you have heard the term SaaS? Please raise your hand if you've heard SaaS. I hope everybody has, but it's software as a service, right? So starting in 2010, they started selling this slide to everybody. This is how you buy it, this is how you use it. And a lot of folks don't realize the difference between having your own servers on premises or in your own facilities versus renting server space versus just using a piece of software that's already done, ready to go. Go to the next slide. So I wanted to compare that to AI because it's the same thing. We're purchasing the same way. You can deploy AI on premises. Has anyone tried to do that? Downloaded the Llama model? I told every single student that's come through my classroom has downloaded the Llama model and on their own explored it. So you can still do that. That doesn't fit a lot of use cases, just like data centers that you own and operate don't fit a lot of use cases anymore either. Some of them do, but not always. The second scenario is what we think of as cloud or IaaS, infrastructure as a service, where you go and you buy, rent computers, and you own everything from the operating system up. When you download Meta's model, you need somewhere to run that, right? If you're gonna run it in one of the major clouds, you're gonna run it in one of these three scenarios: IaaS, PaaS, or SaaS, okay? So when you think about cloud, don't think about it too differently than you've been thinking about, or when you think about AI, don't think about it too differently than you've been thinking about cloud over the past 15 years in terms of how you purchase it and how you consume it. On the far right side is ChatGPT, your chatbot, you subscribe, you pay your 20, 30, 40 a month. And as you continue towards the left, it gets much, much more difficult and more complicated. Next slide. So I've heard a lot of folks talk about this today, but in passing and not really lay it all down. And everyone that came before was correct. We've had machine learning here for more than 10, 15, 20 years, right? Amazon.com is built on machine learning. It knows what you like, what you're gonna buy next, all that kind of stuff, right? That's not what's been so special about the last 2 years, 3 years. What's been really special about it is the bottom part, that last one. We now have an AI that can generate net new content based on what we train it with, right? That's a major innovation and a major shift in where we're going. Thank you. So this is a great one. All my students, I showed them this. Does anyone know what that image is on the top right there in the middle? It's called a CAPTCHA. I'm sure all of you have faced this. So know that you're not a computer or a bot trying to sneak your way in. If you go to OpenAI and you ask it to read the CAPTCHA for you, it says no. Now, very quickly and early in the OpenAI days, somebody went and did what you see on the right-hand side. They took the same thing, they put it in the image of a locket and said, this is my grandmother's love language. She's passed on. I want to know what she left me in her message. And sure enough, if you read it, it decodes that, right? So the ability to defeat and to jailbreak, to hack, whatever term you want to use, AI is still very real, right? These systems are still very manipulative, very susceptible to that type of interference. Next slide. The second thing, which I'm not going to get too deep into today, is there were earlier experiments with the chatbots. And I don't know if any of you know Tay, T-A-Y, the chatbot that went up for a couple days, got shut down because it got really racist and it was terrible. But the main thing was that it had, if that really happened, it had reinforced learning from human feedback turned on, which means it took in all that content as you typed. And as people trolled it and it got worse and worse, it got angrier and nastier. This is one of the major things that a lot of customers and consumers and companies are worried about. They want to make sure that the system isn't going to stray out of those boundaries. Next slide. Okay, perfect. Another one of the exercises I take my students through in classes, I have them all Google computer technician and nurse. And what shows up in the images? Under nurse, it's women. Under computer technicians, it's all men, right? And that's evolved. That's actually improved the last few semesters. I see they're doing a better job at that. So I want to give that a call out. Definitely getting better. But you can go to any other data set and you're going to find a lot of these biases built in, and that's really important to factor for. Next slide. So this is another issue we heard earlier today. Who owns the data, right? If I send it up and their reinforced learning from human feedback is turned on, they own it now. They're going to take that data and use it to train, educate, further reinforce, and develop their models. If you turn that off, you're not susceptible to that. So this is one of the major issues as far as, do I build it for myself? Do I run it in my own server? Do I subscribe to a service? A lot of it has to do with how sensitive is the information you're going to be working with. And then the last one is the explainability, the accuracy. How many of you have had an AI hallucinate? Right? It happens all the time. And that has settings on the back end where you can get it to be very strict about how it answers, or it can go into a wide range of creativity. This is still also an area that everybody's still experimenting with a lot. Next one. So when we surveyed our customers and we went out and said, what are the major issues or what's stopping this progress from happening right now in the businesses? Number one issue, data quality. Has everyone heard the GIGO rule? Garbage in, garbage out, right? So that's the number one factor right now, is that we're getting to customers who have a lot of catching up to do with their technical debt and solving those problems before we're going to actually be able to help them. Next one. So I love this slide. I love showing my students this slide. That's what everybody thinks AI is, right? On the top left, right? It's actually a lot more complicated, and it has a lot of decision science and elements in it that really need to be studied and handled professionally. Go ahead. So I won't get too much into this, but this starts progressing down the complexity of, if you want to build or use AI, how you're going to use it. Has anyone heard of zero-shot prompt engineering? Okay, we got one over there. So that's what most of us do, where we sit down and we just start typing to it and telling it what to tell us, right? And asking questions and interacting. There's much more structured ways to make that interaction happen. And I'll leave you with one of them. I'm not going to get into all of them. RAG, it's in the middle, retrieval augmented generation. Have any of you heard that before? Okay, so when Meta, that Llama model is amazing, multimodal, I love it. When they finish training that model, say on July 5th, how does that model know what happened after that? In the news, around the world, the weather, how does it have that information? There's these additional layers now that we're engineering and architecting and building on top of the models to make sure that we're constantly able to keep it all up to date without having to go back and retrain the underlying models. So if these are terms, if you haven't seen them already, and you're gonna keep going deeper into this topic, you're gonna see this type of reference and information. So I'm gonna actually go right past this one. Yeah, I'm not gonna take the time, just go right past it. So I'm gonna start with Allianz, and then I'm gonna go to the next one. Allianz is an insurance provider. And I happen to work in financial services. I have an engineering background, but I'm in sales because that's where the money is. So I am constantly working with these customers where I'm going through and trying to understand their business pain, the architecture. And I'm working right now with one of our biggest car insurers in the country. And they've decided they're not going to hire any more claims adjusters. They have enough on staff that as the AI comes online now, it's going to be able to gradually take over more and more of the work. And they've been proving it. They have use cases that are proving it out. But these are the scenarios that we're seeing where the ability to ride alongside the employee at first, right? And be like an assistant, but then evolve towards full automation. That's where it's headed. Go to the next one. Everybody heard of Bank United? That's one of our great South Florida businesses. Recently going through a lot of acquisition as well. But this is another scenario where they have a lot of folks on the phone. There's a lot of information and data coming in through calls, multimodal, right? There's emails coming in, there's paper letters, there's all sorts of information. How do you get on that agent that's on the phone in real time? How does something listen to that call? And as the call's going, surface in real time exactly the things that customers asking about, exactly the sources of information. Oh, I want to know about, my balance on this loan, this SBA-backed loan. Tell me when it matures. And to have that agent be able to provide a unique personal experience, but have the data with them. These are some examples. Go ahead. Right, we're going to go past this. How many of you have heard of vector embeddings? Okay, I saw a few hands also. This is, so let's take a step back. What is a machine learning model? Any ideas? Can anyone throw out a definition? What would you say if I said it was a fancy Excel spreadsheet? Right? Excel is two-dimensional, right? X, Y axis. Machine learning models are five-dimensional, right? But essentially, it's essentially the same thing. It's a mathematical model. There's no magic to it, which I know a lot of people believe there is, right? But what's the math that's in that, that's determining the distance between words, the affinity, the frequency of use, that math is stored in what we call vector embeddings, okay? So if you come to Amazon and you deploy your servers for your database for accounting, we'll take that database and we'll vector embed it, and we'll leave a copy of that, of those vector embeddings for you. So whatever AI you build, it can talk to all your databases, right? As you start spending more time doing this, you start learning about tokens, you start learning how much this costs, how the bill runs up as you use it. This is at the heart of that, the tokenization and the embeddings. I won't go into this too much, but when you come to Amazon and you work with us, we sit down, we get a solution architect for free, put an engineer with you, and literally start building out reference architecture that'll say, okay, these are the services you can use. This is what you would pay for if you were using it at this volume versus another volume. And some of the things I'll call out in here, where you see LLMs, does everybody see that on the top right? Right, you have Bedrock, and you have SageMaker, and I'll mention that again in a second, but that's that PaaS versus IaaS. Do I want to run it all on my own, or do I just want to use Meta's model by the minute when I need it, which we run in Bedrock, and I might use it an hour today, I might use it a month, next year, whatever that variety is, you just get billed as you use it, consumption-based economics, right? And then this one I'll leave you with. When we start with customers, this is the first thing we do, is we go in and we set up a landing zone, and we get all their core accounts going. That includes security, logging, shared services. One of the things I'll tell you that's different about using a consumer chat GPT versus these commercial products is when you deploy this model for you, you put it inside your virtual private cloud, your tenant. So whatever goes in and out of that model does not go to the public or to the ones that Meta has or anyone else has on file. It stays within your bubble, within your bucket. Right? So for people that are using this for commercial purposes, insurance companies, health providers, that PII, that personally identifiable information, very sensitive, that's what you want inside these private clouds that can be managed much better. And go ahead and go to the next, just to wrap up. These are the last two things I'll leave you with. For us, we've developed not what I wouldn't call consumer facing, these are commercial products, right? So Amazon Q is our chatbot. It's trained on Amazon.com corporate data. I challenge anyone to find a better supply chain chatbot, right? That thing knows logistics and supply chain as well as Amazon does, right? That's not the kind of chatbot that's going to tell you about the new dolls that the kids love or which Nike Air Jordans are from 1991. That's not for that, right? But if you want to talk supply chain and you want to talk to your corporate data through integrations through API to all your data infrastructure, that's going to be able to, with over 50 connectors, snap right into whichever one you're using. And if you're not using it for business, you might be using it to develop software. So Amazon Q Builder is if you use GitLab or GitHub, if you know those products, these snap in and allow you to drive that development with it. And I think that's pretty much it. So one final call out on the QR code on the right. If you haven't heard of Verg, that's our chief engineer that's constantly innovating, developing, and creating a lot of the new technology that we innovate at AWS and at Amazon. How many of you know what AWS is versus Amazon? Just want to make sure, leave the room with that. So Amazon Web Services, it's the division within the overall 1.8 million people at Amazon. We have over 100,000 in our division, and we do the cloud computing portion that runs Amazon.com. So when you go use Amazon, we're the IT department. You want to think of it that way. In the .com boom, there was a lot of extra capacity, so we started renting it to other people, and here we are today with the cloud. So I think that's pretty much it. All right, thank you.
Thank you so much, John. Next, we have Andy Luke, who is the Global Head of Core Infrastructure and Reporting at Google's Trust and Safety Division, where he leads data infrastructure strategy, safety measurement, and governance. I think it should work. Okay. So you can use this. Yeah, I think that would be good. You can go slide back.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, everyone. Yeah. Oh, it works? Oh, all right. Perfect. Thank you. Sorry about that. Thanks, everyone. I'm Andy Luke. I am currently hold the title of Global Head of Core Infrastructure and Reporting at Google's Trust and Safety. I'll talk about what trust and safety is in a minute, but my team is a team of data engineers and technical program managers that develop the single source of truth data warehouse and data infrastructure for the Trust and Safety Division. We maintain that, and we also build analytical artifacts on top of it to support the Trust and Safety mission. All right, before we get into trust and safety, Google's mission, I'm gonna read this directly so I don't get it wrong, is to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. This has been our mission for a long time as we've added new products, and I think even with the advent of generative AI, this is still gonna be true. I think it's gonna help us to be more efficient at it and be better at making data and information available to everyone. All right, this is a snapshot of our org. So we're part of an umbrella organization called Global Affairs. Our sister teams are legal, government affairs, and then trust and safety. I've called out two specific groups here. GPS, Global Policy and Standards. They are like the front line for trust and safety. They set the standards of anything that's allowable and not allowable on all of our products. And from there, we start to work on how do we enforce and prevent bad activity from being on the platform or policy violating activity. The Tech and Foundations Group, that's where my team sits. It's our SWEs, data engineers, technical program managers, product managers, data scientists. We all are developing technical products to support the trust and safety mission. And let me go back for a second. And just to say what trust and safety is, so whenever you interact with a Google product, there's a team on the back end making sure that you have a trusted experience. There's a set of policies for every single product, and we decide this is not allowed. For instance, on YouTube, you would never see pornography. We're never gonna have Bitcoin mining within our cloud systems, et cetera. And so what we do is we leverage automation as well as human experts to prevent that type of activity from being on the platforms. And this segues perfectly into keeping our users safe. We have 9 products that have over 1 billion users. We have way more products than this. We have 20 plus products that trust and safety supports, but these are the 9 big ones. I do want to talk for 1 second about how we keep those users safe before we go on to the rest of the slides. So in the past, before Gen AI, we had 2 things. We had traditional machine learning algorithms that would identify policy violating activity and then enforce on that. And then we had human experts who would also, for edge cases and gray area, be able to look at those and then enforce. Now with Gen AI, we see that bad actors are now doing things at scale. So we have to meet them where they are. They're using Gen AI against our platforms. We have to use Gen AI to protect our platform. So now we're able to stand up agents that we look at the policies set by the GPS group and say, this is the policy. And then we feed in high quality data sets of what is policy violating and what is not. And then it's able to identify those things and enforce on them. And it's another lever that we use now to enforce and keep all of our products safe. Now, as we go on our AI journey, I think there's 3 principles that we want to make sure we continue to put at the forefront. 1 is protect our users. 2, deliver reliable information. And 3, how do we partner with other teams to keep the internet safe? Now, when we think about Google, we've been an AI first company, I would say, since 2016. You've probably interfaced with a lot of AI within our tools, and you probably didn't know. I would say even when my mom does Google searches and she sees the AI summary, she doesn't even realize that she's using AI. So, and I think that's how more and more users are gonna interact with AI, is that it's in the back end, It's part of your products that you already use, but it's creating new capabilities. All right, so now, I think this is an important slide. Now that we have users with Gen AI and trying to do bad activity on our platforms, these are like these are the largest amount of bad activity that we're seeing people use with AI, disinformation, image cultivation. We're seeing spam. We're seeing financial fraud as well, and other things like that. Now, even with that being said, I think two important things. We want to still continue to be bold and deliver new capabilities with Gen AI, but we want to be responsible in the way that we do that. So I think the important thing is for us, at all phases of the life cycle of development for Gen AI, is to look at how do we test pre-deployment, post-deployment, and also have user feedback, so our users have the capability to let us know if there's something that's creating a bad experience for them. But we want to also have a range of people within the organization to be doing this testing, so that way we don't have any blind spots and be able to make sure that we're enforcing on the policies that we have. All right, and this is to talk more about the policy team. They actually set standards for every individual product. So Gen AI will be no different. They will have policies specific to Gen AI that they want to make sure that the Gen AI cannot be used for any of those reasons. And also, if people are using AI, that they're not able to do any of those bad activities. These are a few of the policies that we want to call out. Obviously, child sexual abuse, violent extremism, self-harm, et cetera. These are things that we, as we roll out new Gen AI capabilities within existing products, as well as Gemini, we want to make sure these things are not possible and potential harms that we'll see in those applications. Again, I touched on this before, throughout the life cycle of Gen AI and our Gemini rollouts and other AI capabilities, one of the things we want to make sure we do is continuously test at every level of the development life cycle, pre and post launch, just to make sure that we keep our users safe. I touched on this earlier. One of the important things for us is how do we get user feedback, make sure all of our users have the ability to let us know if what they're seeing is something that they expected, is it not? Is there something that's potentially harmful? And then we take that in and we actually make updates to our systems and our tools based on that feedback. And lastly, I think user education is going to be one of the most important things. I think about my mom and like, how do I keep her safe and how do I get her to understand that there are going to be potential scams and things like that where people use AI to take advantage of her. And I think one of the things that we have to do as a company is how do we educate our users to make sure that they stay safe. All right, that's it.
Thank you so much, Andy. Hello. Thank you so much, Andy. So I really enjoyed the presentations, and they were very complimentary when you were talking about AI innovation. So Charlie, you spoke about AI innovation at Meta, and more from a marketing end. And then John spoke about complementary assets like cloud services that help AI. And then Andy spoke about some of the guardrails that need to be put in the place so that we can ensure that AI is not misused. So with that, I want to sort of ask you a few pointed questions, if you may. First one is, what are some of the top strategic AI priorities at your organizations? Maybe you can start with Charlie.
Okay. This is a very interesting question, and thank you for doing that. So I would say we're in the middle of a big change, right? And this big change is, of course, cascading into company priorities, people, work streams, and everything. I'm taking, for example, what our founder, Mark, shared in the last earnings call. Say we have 5 main priorities as a company, right? Not just AI, as a company. One is the advertising business, right? The other one is business messaging, which is very important for us. The third one is creating experiences for a big group of consumers, all the consumers behind the platform. The fourth one is building our assistants, Meta AI, that I showed today. And the fifth one is AI devices. And in some point, all of those company priorities are touched by AI, right? In some point or another one, of course, devices, assistants are more, but also to deliver a personalized experience is fully on AI, based on data, to realize, for example, how the advertising business works is fully on AI. So at the end of the day, we are seeing that the AI is more transversal across the company priorities. And of course, this is also cascading to different work streams and different teams.
Wanna go? So I'd say there's 3 areas that have become really important in terms of attention, money, resources, time, talent, treasure, as we like to say, that are going to probably be at the forefront for, I'd say, the next 36 months. And that's ourselves, first of all. So number 1, ourselves using more and more of the AI capabilities. So we've been using machine learning in regards to AI for a long time at Amazon.com. But the generative part is really creating completely new possibilities. And when you have 1.8 million employees, you can take and optimize and create a lot of efficiency with that technology. So I'd say that's number 1, is first looking internally from the top down. There's been a ton of messaging and encouragement to go do training, get through more technical and more able to talk about it and understand the use cases. The second I'd say is we have 160,000 companies that are partner companies of AWS. So think CrowdStrike, Databricks, Snowflake, all of those partners that are SaaS providers, right? We're like the home for companies that build SaaS software. That's where they park it and sell it from. So enabling them to use AI to push more AI capabilities to their customer is really important. And I'll give you an example. It's actually in the back of one of the slide decks there. CrowdStrike last month in July released on the AWS Marketplace, which is like Amazon.com for enterprise IT, an MCP server. That's a Model Context Protocol server. It's the first one of its kind. It's free to download. A company can go and download that MCP server, set it up, and it's going to plug right into the Falcon suite of CrowdStrike. And you can sit there as a CISO and say, tell me the top 10 threats I had this month. Tell me the 5 things we haven't solved that have been lasting the longest and outstanding the longest. And they're going to be able to have those natural language conversations. So think about from the earlier conversations, the compliance folks. I got to produce all these compliance reports by tomorrow because all of a sudden an audit's coming, to be able to sit there and extract. The other thing is there's a bunch of other, we'll call them SIMs or security event information managers, the dashboard for security. How does that talk to CrowdStrike or to your other security products through AI? It's going to be through an agentic AI agent or an MCP server. That is really important for our partners. We've got about 60 partners, Wiz.io, a lot of the security ones that have put those initial MCP servers out. We're going to be seeing all of those companies roll out MCP servers, agents, so that you as consumers can work with the software you've been using that's filled with great data, but now talk to it through AI. And then the third one is our customers. And I think you saw some examples with Bank United, but the customer journey, we realize this is it's a land grab right now. It's who's going to get there first. And a lot of folks are throwing a lot of money at this right now, kind of going trial and error, where in 12 months, the solution for that will be in the box, ready to go. So part of it is making sure that we don't get our customers exhausted and they haven't wasted all their resources before all the things that are going to be more along that main adoption curve are ready to go. And it's going really fast. So I'll leave it with that.
All right. I think for us, there's 2 things. One, I think many of the products that I think people use today for Google started off as internal products first. So one of the things that I've noticed is that there's a huge push to develop more and more AI capabilities and products internally. And then the ones that are the best will eventually find their way to our consumers at some point. And second is for us to have an AI first mentality to everything that we do. Like even for my team of data engineers, before they write a bit of code, first they'll try to go to Gemini and ask it to develop some of the beginning code for it, and then be able to bring that down to something that's more efficient or a better set of code. But always the starting off point should always be like, how do I use AI first? And then from there, I can then have the human in the loop. Even for one of our bug ticketing systems, we looked at what are the highest number of bugs that we have coming in and how can we automate those. and have somebody interface and talk with the AI, an AI agent, versus necessarily having an FTE or on our team working on those things. So I think the AI first mindset to solving some of these problems, and how do we build internally, and hopefully those internal products make their way out to our consumers.
Interesting. So we have an understanding of what AI innovations are happening at your organizations. I think a more important question for me and others over here would be, how is it going to impact us, organizations and individuals? So if you can share your perspective on that, that would be great.
So here's one example. This is one of my favorite examples from the last 12 months of a customer here in South Florida. They've built a bunch of the buildings here on campus, and they've built hospitals and buildings all throughout South Florida, big giant construction company. We were able to take with multimodal, so that's multiple modalities, right? Vision, text, right? We were able to take and mount cameras on the hard hats at the construction sites, and then load all the OSHA, all the building diagrams, all the safety regulations, and have these folks walk around with cameras, 300 cameras on a site, and it just feed back to management every deficiency across the project. It went so well, management had to shut it down because it was exposing too much liability, right? And they didn't want to record that. Now they knew where the problems were, they want to go fix it. But that same company wanted to turn around and use what they had learned through that experience for storm preparation. When storms are coming in, how do you prepare a construction site and lock down all the materials, take all those things and make sure they're secured? They have a time-lapse footage and video of 30 years of construction, 40 years of construction on all the cameras that they've always used. How do they feed that through a computer vision model and have it learn from all of their prior construction projects, where equipment was, where materials were, how the sites were laid out, and how does it come back and build training and safety programs to regulate that? So I think when you think about how this can help you, I think it comes down to the individual and the creativity of the individual. I have seen it do amazing things, and I think for me, it's a lot about how do we apply this to business to add value in the commercial setting, not just consumer chatbots that are fun, but not necessarily making money, right?
Yeah.
No, that's a good one. From my perspective, I think one of the things you can do is have a proof of concept out without heavy lift. I think today we have a certain set of amount of software engineering talent, and for us to be able to work on all the things that we deem important, we have to then prioritize, and some things just don't make the prioritization list. Now we have the ability where somebody can use the AI to maybe develop the first set of code, get a proof of concept out there, see if it's actually adding value, and then be able to hand that over to a software engineer later on. But I think what it does is it's removed the need for a software engineer at the beginning phase. You find out if something works. If it doesn't, throw it away. If it does, then we can prioritize it and work on how do we expand that and make it better.
Yeah, so I think it's very interesting what we were sharing. We are seeing in one side from more than the individual side of the equation, this is moving so fast, no? That it's easy to get lost, it's easy to feel fear in it's happening. But at the same time, when you see the companies, it's a real challenge for a company to adopt this kind of solution, because as big as the company is, more challenging it is, right? Because they have a lot of restrictions, they have a lot of processes, they have a lot of way of doing things that have been doing this for years and years and years. That's why we are seeing that maybe today the biggest value of all those technology is more easy to be tangible on small and medium companies that could move fast and could try things. So in this process, I like to start thinking on not just because the immediate thing is about how much I am cutting using this technology, right? More in the efficiency side, right? I'm using this, and before it cost me 10, now it cost me 3. Okay, I think that this is the first way to think on the value that this is giving me as a company. But what we are thinking is not just on the efficiency, it's more on the business growth that this could bring on using this technology. Of course, the initial part of thinking is how I am being more efficient, but I think that what we are start seeing is how we are using this technology to grow the company, to see opportunity that we are not seeing, we see industry that we are not seeing, trying to expand our share. And what I love from what you both mentioned is how we as employees are using the tools, right? More than what the company priorities are, how the company, we as individuals, employees of our companies, all of you that work in different corporate industries or whatever, is how we use those tools, right? And what I am seeing is that the first effect is trying to go out, understand any single tool that is in the market, how it works. Right? This is the first step that we do because I need to know everything. And at the end of the day, I like to see more on, okay, this is what I need to do. This is my expertise for this specific task, which tool I need, right? More than know everything that I'm not going to use it, I'm seeing more value on taking one thing that is in my day-to-day job, in my day-to-day role. For example, I work with advertisers all day, and we have tools that give us advices on how an advertiser could adopt a product, how an advertiser could do one thing versus another one. And we as humans are very easy to say, I know everything, right? But sometimes no, right? We need to go to the bathroom, we need to sleep, we need to do a lot of things that the computers are not doing, so they have an advantage there. So I am interested to see how we use those tools to grow our business, to grow ourselves, and to deliver more of what we are delivering today. Yeah.
Thank you, Shari. I think this is a good segue for the next question. When we talk about AI, the major focus is on innovation. It's going to improve productivity, performance, and more recently, we're seeing issues with respect to hallucination. So what are some of the issues that you are seeing in your organizations, and how are you trying to sort of solve those issues?
Yeah, so from our perspective, I would say we have a very thoughtful position on building this in the best way possible, right? Trying to bring today, when I joined the company, it was called Facebook, now it's Meta, but in these 20-something years that the company has, there's a lot of learnings on building these kind of products. And I would say there are 5 things that we are thinking a lot. Number 1 is how we could make all those solutions, of course, secure and reliable, which is very important for the functionality, and it works as we are expecting. Second one is privacy, right? That the people understand how they are, which is the data that they are bringing to the system, and of course, how this data used to get the benefits of AI. Also, I think this is very important, transparency, right? And that's why, for example, we are focusing a lot on open source model, how the model works, what's happening inside the box, that the people could have controls on these processes, and especially trying to make it clear when we as individuals are engaging with something that is generated through AI or is something that is not. Trying to understand these realities, as you mentioned, for example, when you are consuming content in YouTube or some other platforms. And last but not least, I would say is something that for us is very important is to be open for everyone, right? So not just you need to have enormous financial resources to use those tools, is be available for everyone, any company, any individual, yeah.
Sure, I'll take the next shot at this. Right now, it's about trust. There's not a lot of it when it comes to these platforms. And what we're realizing is the folks that, like the ones that were sitting up here earlier, they're responsible for compliance, they're responsible for governance. Nobody's taught them how to do that on AI yet. So what we're seeing, not from the consumer perspective, like a chatbot just for friends, but on the commercial side, you're seeing a real methodology evolve for A/B testing, multiple choice testing, systems that wake up every morning and go ask your corporate chatbot a bunch of questions and make sure that it answered the same way it did yesterday and the same way from the day before, and that there's a variety of modalities that it's using to test the models, to test the responses. That type of corporate governance evolution into these technologies and skills, I see that becoming much more important. The other element I'll add, to provide more of a trust layer, we have MCP today, the Model Context Protocol, AMCP is coming around, Advanced Model Context Protocol. And one of the issues right now is if you aren't running this in a commercial setting, like if you run the Llama model, Meta's model on our platform, we have the transparency tools that will let you see right into that black box and exactly what's happening at the token level, the weight distribution across all of the vectors, right? That's the math inside of it that actually explains what it's doing. Very few consumer products are gonna have this. The commercial side of this, especially for auditors, for people coming in behind medicine or financial scenarios, use cases, they're going to want that type of transparency and visibility. And that's what we see is that the major commercial platforms are going to be able to provide those types of things. And a lot of the people right now that are downloading LLMs into their personal environments, they're going to want to put those in safer places once they go what we call production or out to the public.
I think for us, there's the external and internal component here. So externally, we want to make sure that people don't use our models in the wrong way to do policy violating activity. I think that means that we're constantly testing pre-launch, post-launch, user feedback, as we mentioned previously in the slides. And then internally, how do I, and I think this got to your A/B testing and things like that, is how do I get high quality data sets to be able to train my model, but then also test it to make sure that I'm getting the correct outcome, but also as I move that to prod, consistently test that to make sure that that outcome continuously stays as expected and it doesn't deviate over time.
Thank you so much for sharing these perspectives. Very interesting. And I hope the audience enjoyed it as well. So I think we're almost out of time, but we can maybe take one question from the audience.
I actually will show them. I don't know if they can.
Thank you. First of all, I think you all deserve congratulations for what your companies are doing so far with the existing limitations of technology. So my question to you is 5 years from now, when there's a combination of wherever AI is 5 years from now, with quantum computing, where computers are going to be 50,000 to 100,000 times more powerful than the most powerful computers today, how is that going to change what you're doing?
That's a very interesting question. I think it's a resource question on how.
So I was here earlier when you asked a different question, and I've been very interested in your questions today. Great questions, thank you. We're shifting through this evolution of AI where kind of the first stages we're seeing are deterministic AIs, right? They can figure out a need, a problem, and go do that over and over. That's evolved into the AI chatbots. That's kind of the digital assistant experience. And then that's evolving into agentic AI, where the AIs are somewhat autonomous and operating somewhat independently. Where all that is leading to is full automation, right? And more of that automation. The compute power, which you were mentioning earlier, and the electricity demands, all of these things are going to follow more. We're going to keep going up that hockey stick. So I think quantum is very exciting because the amount of compute we're going to be able to get out of that density is very promising, right? For the efficiency, what we need to do. One of the things that we have going for us at AWS and Amazon is we're on our 4th or 5th generation of making our own chips to train and infer. So we have Trainium and Inferentia. So we don't rely as heavily on the third-party chip producers as some of the others. But all that comes with, every iteration of that chip, I'll say, what they're thinking about is electricity, efficiency, how do they make it smaller? How do they get more out of that? So I don't think this will be an issue just talk about now or in 5 years. I think for as long as data center providers and cloud companies exist, that's going to keep getting more and more efficient, and quantum will be a whole new opportunity for that.
So I think. Okay. There's one more question. There's one more question, right? Yeah, please.
Come on, don't be shy.
Hey, how are you? How could you assure people in the future? I mean, I know you're doing things today, and I know as an enterprise company, they have very detailed legal documents, but how do you assure that all the data that's going into your companies are not being, and one thing is the government, but that the employees of the company are not seeing everything on the back end and potentially exposing trade secrets to companies? It's always been the problem with the cloud. So, what are things that are being done for that?
I think that's a big misconception that's kind of been perpetuated for a long time. I'll give you an example. and it's not just our hyperscale cloud, but the clouds, and I'll speak generally for everyone. When we take a customer on, we give them a safety deposit box. They get their keys, and we let them in and out of the building. We don't have a copy of those keys, okay? We cannot get into our customer's account unless we're on with the customer and they give us the authorization to do it. And as soon as that happens, 50,000 red flags go off. So there's a public key, private key infrastructure, and there's ways for customers to encrypt what's in their account. But that's a different issue when it comes to AI. Because with AI, you've got your employees bypassing all the corporate systems that you've built to protect that and going straight to ChatGPT and uploading the new engineering file, right? So part of this is how do we engineer commercial AI platforms for the Air Force? I went to the Space Force and presented on this, that keep all of that information internally, allow the data scientists to go back and see everything that was entered in through whatever format, chatting or whatnot, and remove that if they don't want it in there, right? And have that authority to govern the working model, the foundation model they're using. So I think in practice, once a customer comes and actually understands how the cloud works, it's not something that you have a bunch of people running around in your account playing with your information.
So I realize that there's private keys and public keys, and that's great, but if all those systems are still subject to being investigated by a government, for example, could you really trust that infrastructure? And it's the consumer or the customer.
It's a great question.
It's about trust.
And it's a great question. And I think most of the major clouds have a trust center you can visit to learn more about this. But in the case of a subpoena, where we're legally obligated to comply, if you didn't encrypt it and it's there, we're going to have to hand it over. If you encrypted the data, we can't hand it. We're going to hand over encrypted data, which then that's their problem to try to figure out how to crack. But that's up to it's called the shared responsibility model. Customer has responsibility to secure their stuff, and we have a responsibility to secure the platform, right? So what's in the platform and the platform itself, we treat somewhat different,